Hello everybody, I'm RouterUno, and I'm bringing you a guide on basic configuration for a router, how to put an enable password, and nothing too difficult. We're going to be doing a little bit of setting up SSH on here, setting IPs on interfaces, make a sub interface, host name, so on and so forth. Nothing you wouldn't do as a beginner in the route switch world. I have restarted this video about 4 times now and attempting to get a mostly quiet room. I've picked up an obscene amount of background noise. But to show you guys the connection, this will give it to me. Currently, we have a connection. Okay. Let's see. Pretty sure we can see physical. Can I see it like this? Okay, I have it memorized. 00 is connected to GI02 here, and FA01, which is that top interface there, is connected to the Ethernet connection on this computer. It's our endpoint. So we're going to begin here by configuring our router. Hop in here. Oh, this is on packet tracer if you'd like to follow. And I'm here. You're going to type in the dialog. You're going to type in no. We want to create this all from ourselves. When you log into a router originally, you're logged in exec mode. You can run a few run commands in here. You can see it's mostly a read area within the router. So we want to do we don't want to be there. You don't want to get to configure terminal, but there's steps to get there. First, you must type in enable. This gets you to privilege exec, which is you can run a few more commands, but you're not truly changing the router, any of the configuration on the router from this mode. Again, this is another spot you'd give to somebody if they need read access. Past this, they can edit the device. But we're going to go into config T, which stands for configure terminal, and we are going to edit device. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a host name on this router. So we're going to do host name RouterUno because it is our first router. And we're going to put a password on there. So you're going to type in enable password, and that will put a password for your privilege, going from exec to privilege exec. So you're going to type in enable password and whatever you want. And because this is our first video, I will be using the password layer0 in honor of the channel name. And then the next step, we will be configuring SSH. Typically, you'd want to be able to log into the device remotely. So here we go. First thing you have to do, there's a few criterias. First, you have to set a domain name. So we're going to do IP domain back name. It can really be anything for this environment. It's just a test. So for now, we're just filling it with routeruno.com. That'll work. That fills it in. Now we're going to have to generate RSA keys. So to do that, you're going to type in crypto key generate RSA. You at least need to put a 512-bit modulus, but we'll do 2048, which is pretty standard for most places. So they will be typing. Okay, I created the RSA keys, and now we want to be running on the newer version of SSH, so we're going to type in IP SSH version 2. Boom. Now that's enabled. Now we're going to create a timeout session. You heard that. It's my dog. It's a bit of a problem. He yells a lot. I can't really stop him. So we're going to have to live with it. SSH timeout. This creates a timeout for the device. We're logging in 60 seconds. That's what we're going to set it to. And this is going to limit how many times you can try to authenticate before you have to type in your username. Basically, you're going to close out. If you're using PuTTY, you close out PuTTY, reopen it, or recreate a connection to the terminal. recreate connection to the device from your terminal. So we're setting that to forgot command retries to, yep, and that's what you want to put there. Now we're going to go into another area within config T. We're going to go to the line v2y. And over here is what we'll figure how you'll be able to remotely connect to it. So you'll go into line v2y 04. See, now we're in config line, and we're making it so we cannot use telnet to connect to this device. We're using transport input SSH. We're doing this. Telnet can be password and username when you use a telnet connection is plain text. If you're someone's running Wireshark or man in the middle, they can easily get your password and get into your network or your network devices. So we're going to set that there. Now that we have that, we're going to type exit to jump back a layer. And just because we have no DNS servers and I don't feel like waiting 20 minutes if I type something in wrong, we're going to do no IP domain back lookup. This will save you from basically like if you go back a step here and I type in the wrong, like we'll just say I type in, that's what pops up. We'll just do random letters. So basically it'll come up as an unknown computer. Usually when that happens, it'll take a second. The router will try to run through a DNS server. And in this case, we do not have a DNS server. And it could take like 2 to 5 minutes. And I don't think anyone here wants to wait through a fat finger taking 5 to 10 minutes to resolve. So at this point, let's just do a safety. We're going to write the router, and save the configuration. And we can move on to configuring the layer 3 on this router. So first, we're going to go back into config T. We're going to interface into UGI 0/0/0.20. If you noticed earlier when I was showing, I was hovering over the devices, there is no .20. You're creating a sub interface on the 0 interface of this router. So that way we have multiple IPs here separated, or several ranges, not IPs. So now in the sub interface mode, we're going to do an IP address of 10.1.1.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. I believe this is /24. Boom. And we're going to press the up arrow, and we're going to do 21. And we're going to do an up arrow again, go back to what we recently typed in. We're just going to change it there. And then we're going to do up arrow, and I believe 19. And we're going to do something completely separate subnet range because I want to use this interface as our management. I know this is quite a large range for management, but it'll be okay. And if you want to add a description to all of them, you can just type in description. Let's see. We did 21. We did and then we did 20. And we can make it as simple as easy. Now if we exit out of there, we still run. You can see everything here is made, the sub interface. I didn't no shut that port, but that is fine. We can come back and fix that later. So so far. Let's see something actually while we're here. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time too. I'm pretty sure. To do line BTY04. Okay, all's good there. I'm just verifying. Line tech out. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it looks like that's all good. Only checking because I did not see that under the line BTY config. Oh, here it is. I looked too low. All right. Everything's fine here. We'll come back. We'll add those IPs. We live and we learn. We make mistakes. Now we're going to move on to our switch. Same thing with the switch. We're going to go into the CLI. It's going to ask us if mine did not ask us if we wanted to enter configuration mode, or basically their GUI version of configuration. But first, we're going to go into enable, same as before. Big T. Now we're going to put in a host name. Much like the router, we're just going to make a SwitchUno for quick reference. And then we're going to add an enable password. For this, we're going to use the same enable password. There. 0. Now we're going to make it so we can also SSH into this. So we're going to do IP domain name SwitchUno.com. My fault. Fat fingered. Right here. Now I just can't spell. That's all right. That's good to go. Now, same as before, we have to generate our RSA keys. For the we generate RSA. It's going to ask us for a number. We're going to put 2048. Boom. Now, again, IP SSH version to IP SSH time tag out 60 IP SSH authentication factory rise to. Now we're going to go into line BTY mode, BTY04. And we're going to type in transport input SSH. That way we avoid the telnet issue. Also, we can put, I think it's, let me see. Is login local? Yes, it is. Login. If you use question marks, you can find, yep, we can use the local password. Go for more SSHing. And I'll add that to the router as well here in a second. Back out of there. Let's write it just to be safe. Sorry. And now let's configure our switch configs. So before we get started, we're going to create VLANs. The point of a VLAN is to create a segregation in your network to minimize the broadcast domains. There's more than just doing VLANs now to mitigate these broadcast storms, but the first basic step is to separate out your broadcast domains. The reason why separating out a broadcast domain is so important is because the network frame is used to send data across everything in the network that's on the same land. So sometimes broadcast domain, if it's not split up, could be flooded, could flood the entire network with those frames. So a virtual LAN helps mitigate the size of that broadcast domain. But let's get to this now. So config P, and we're going to create our VLAN 19. We're going to name this one MGMT for management. It'll be VLAN 20. We're going to name it, we're going to do that PC, and then VLAN 21. We're going to name it. Now we can exit there, exit there again. And then we can do a show VLAN brief. I'm just shortening it, but if you want to type out the whole thing, there it is. You can see we have these three new VLANs. These are the default VLANs. To default, everything will be in VLAN 1, but we're now going to assign our interfaces. So now we're going to go back into config T, and we're going to interface info, or we can type, let's do this, do show IP int 3. We can see something is plugged into 01, that's why it is up. So we can go ahead and interface. You can type int to shorthand it, int, FA for fast Ethernet 01. And then we're going to set it to switch port access VLAN 20. That will only let one VLAN across it. It's not like a trunk, and we'll get to a trunk in a second. And then we want to exit there. And then we want to create an interface VLAN for the management interface. So, interface VLAN 19. This way it has an IP 168.0.2. Sorry, I was confused. IP address 192.168.0.2. And we have to put the subnet. Thank you for reminding me. And there we go. We created our management VLAN, or SVI, switch virtual interface. It's IP associated to the switch now, and we need to create a port for everything to go across to the router too now. And our connection to the router is going to be port 24, as I said earlier. So we're going to interface FA0/24, and we're just going to make a simple switch port trunk, switch port mode trunk, sorry. And this will just let everything over that connection without needing, we're not going to prune anything, we're just testing right now. So right now the switch should be completely configured, so we're going to exit. We're going to write the switch really quickly. Let me make sure everything is not shut. So you can do show run interface. You can do FA0/1. This will check us to show us the first interface. Maybe it's not on this version of switch or on. Yeah. All right. We just do show run pipe begin interface fast Ethernet. That didn't work. All right, we're just going to show run and get down there. We'll make this easy. There's not too much config. So we see there's FA01 and FA0/24. To make sure those are no shut, which they should be. So, but we can just add it to the configuration interface int FA0/1. You can type no shut. I make sure the interface isn't shut down, and then we could do 24 as well, which I knew it wasn't shut down by our green light tier, but we'll get there in a second. And no shut here as well. Okay, all fine and dandy. The switch should be good to go already. Now we're gonna hop back into the router, and we're actually gonna fix our little mistakes over here. And we're gonna do a big T and interface GI 0/0/0. We're gonna no shut that, and that should turn on all the interfaces downstream of it. I just want to see if those IPs. There's no IP address. Okay. Big T. Now we're gonna interface GI 0/0/0.20. We're gonna do a encapsulation dot 1Q20. Be nice actually. And then IP address 10.1.1.1 255.255.0. That should be .20 done. Let's do .21 real quick. Then, sorry, I was just making sure I didn't type anything in wrong. You can do a .2 here. That would overlap. Whoops. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. Now that is corrected. Again, thankfully the router tells us our mistakes. We can go back and do the management interface real quick. Do a 92.168.0.1. I forgot to encapsulate it. All right. So now we exit, and we do a show run. You can see everything has its IP. Everything looks a little bit happier now. I actually wanted to add the local login here. VTY04 login local. Exit. Write the router. You can see we're green across the board here, but let's see if I can ping the router's 10.1 address. I shouldn't be able to. It should be our default gateway, but as many of you probably already figured out, we never configured this device. Oh, we're already here. Now we're going to do default gateway of 10.1 to 1. There we go. And do a 10.1 to 1. And then as soon as we have 255.25250, which is good there. Just give it that IP. Invalid subnet. That should be a proper subnet. Okay. And default gateway is going to be 10.1. And for giggles, we'll make Google our DNS. Okay, now we can go back to the desktop. We can test if we can hit our default gateway, which should be the router. Fingers crossed that I did everything right. Sometimes it takes a second. Oh, don't embarrass me. Oh, you're really embarrassing me right now. Ooh. Huh. Let me see if I can ping downward. And downward. Did I miss something? I'm trying to think. I never set a native VLAN. So config T interface GI 0/1. I don't think that's actually a problem, should I'm pretty sure I configured the wrong interface. I did very much so. I put my trunk on 0/24, and that's why it didn't work. Okay. We're going to config T interface GI 0/2. Switch port mode trunk. Exit. Now let's give that a shot one more time, you know, for good old time's sake. It's my first video. You gotta cut me some slack, y'all. Okay? I'm gonna make mistakes. Of course. That's more like it. Never claimed to be perfect. This should connect. Give it a second. There we go. Now we're pinging. That took a lot longer than I expected, but I'm not going to edit out my mistakes because I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm not perfect. But I do want to get better, and that's why we do this type of stuff. So, as always, you write everything one last time just to feel safe and sorry. We can come down here, and now that we can do a show IP interface brief. We can actually see what interfaces are up, and I know that 24 and 02 aren't needed to have configuration on it, so we can do config T default int GI for gigabit Ethernet 0/2, and then we can do that to FA04 as well, or 0/24. And that way there's no configuration on any of those devices, no need to confuse anybody. And we're good to go. But we can do one last thing. Config P. And this is just for knowledge, or for future people if they ever work on your product. You can interface GI 0/1 description. You put the uplink, and then FA01 description, PC TAC PT TAC PC3. There we go. And there's a lot more you can do here, but I was just trying to keep this as basic as possible to show everybody how simple it could be to configure everything. PTY. Okay. We are so close to no. I apologize, but that will. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys learned. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.